There was a lot of mining company quarterly production this week. What was the kind of wash-up of all that?
It was, well, they were down, and it was mainly because of the cyclones in the Pilbara, which wreaked havoc in, Woodside, Fortescue, there's a few others.
Yeah, BHPs were in line, Rios were below expectations. Everyone's looking at, you've got to look at the iron ore. It's going to be 80% of net profit for Rio next year, and it was down, it was up 9% on the year, looks like an okay headline, but it was down 11% on the quarter, cyclones and all that sort of stuff, but it was below expectations. Despite that, everybody's saying buy the stock.
And why would that be, Stephen, do you think?
Well, I mean, the Rio's West Australian iron ore assets will be worth over $100 billion. I mean, it's just a great iron ore price. It's still up sort of 7 or 8 times from the lows of 2000, and the sector's making 25 billion plus out of the Pilbara. I mean, it's just a super cycle based on China.
And shareholders have lost 25% of their money since February last year.
That's right,
both BHP and Rio.
Well, I bet you the brokers were all saying it was a buy. At that point as well.
Out of 8 major brokers, and it did stand out after a fairly flabby set of results from both, that there are 8 major brokers that do research on them. Out of those 16 recommendations, they were all buys except for one which had a hold.
And I'd never suggest they've got a conflict because of all the investment banking, debt management, advisory work that goes on.
There isn't a lot at the moment, though, is there? So
well,
they're desperate.
No,
they're desperate.
There's always been a bias to the buy side, and no one's ever brave enough to put a sell on.
No, it's always,
at the top end of the market.
You don't put a sell on the biggest stock in the market.
Yeah, it's just impolite.
And the target prices for BHP were average 30% above current market. For Rio, average 42% above current market. And you just can't afford, it says the disclaimers on the front of the research say it, our objectivity may be slightly affected by our seeking a deal.
They say they're either doing something for Rio Tinto or the company concerned, or they'd like to.
Or they'd like to.
Correct.
They'd love to in this climate.
If you take the number of buy recommendations and the market cap of a company, there'll be more buys in the big ones than there will be in the small ones, because you just can't afford to screw that relationship.
Well, Marcus, what you're telling us is...
Oh, don't do this, Alan.
Yes, what are you
that
telling
we
us,
can't
Marcus?
take the slightest bit of notice of stockbrokers.
Never have been able to. That's right.
And
is this true?
Has been always thus.
I've always said the detail is what you've got to read on the research, not the headline and the target price, because that's what makes the headlines. But you've got to read the detail, because the analysis is actually really good, and you can take your own view on the recommendation. How am I doing?
Former stockbroker Marcus Paddock.